Hey guys, Danny Johnson here, and today we're going to be looking at this Dewalt Reciprocating Saw. And so this one here is the model DCS381 Variable Speed Reciprocating Saw, and this is the 20 volt max. And so we're going to go over a lot of what's found inside of the owner's manual, but it's not going to be the complete owner's manual, so make sure you do read it on your own. This is just kind of a quick overview, and it highlights a few of the main features of this reciprocating saw. In automotive, as I am, you'd probably see people with this a lot, sawing off exhaust pipes and that kind of thing. And so we're also going to be looking at some of the blades that are available. And just right off the bat, you do want to make sure that you're using the proper blades for metal versus wood. So there's different kits available out there. I think the one that I got here was primarily just metal, and there's a reason you want to stick to these kind. They have finer teeth that don't snag like they would with wood, that kind of thing. So we'll get into that in a minute. So the first feature we're going to talk about here, before anything, you want to make sure that the battery is not connected as you're toting this around. And we're going to first talk about this switch right here. So this is the lockout switch, and so you can see that it's red, means that you would be able to apply power to it. Okay, when you push it in, now it's locked, and that's the way that you want to transport it whenever you're carrying it around. That way, if you did forget to disconnect the battery, and let's just say that you had it in your tool bag and something caused it to trigger, you're not going to start sawing something away. Okay, because that kind of thing can happen, and I have had that happen similar with like just an impact gun. I've heard it going off inside a tool bag. So anyway, that's the first feature, and again, if you look closely, it has the lock symbol here, and if it is pushed in this way, it shows the unlock symbol on that side. And this is a variable speed by the trigger, so you lightly pull it, it goes slowly, and the more trigger, the more it's going to go. So we're going to go ahead and lock that again and disconnect the battery, because we're going to install a blade, and you want to do that without the battery, and you might as well purge it. Just make sure there's no charge left in it. Okay, now some tools have, like a gas pump. As you're putting gas in the car, you can lock it and put a little switch down to hold it in place so it's filling. This does not have that provision, and it asks you to please not do that. You could probably see somebody want to put a zip tie or something around here. That's a bad idea. Don't do that. It's only designed for you to be operating with your finger as the trigger mechanism. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and install this blade as an example. And so there are different models of these reciprocating saws, and believe it or not, this allows you to install the blade this way or upside down this way. And then another model even allows you to install it horizontally. But this particular model is vertical or inverted only. And so first we're going to make sure that the battery is not in it. We're going to make sure that there's no charge in it. We're going to push the lock to make sure it's locked. Okay, so you can see right here in the middle, this is where the blade tip's going to go. And so on the side, there's a little lever that you pull up to unlock it, and you got to pull it all the way up. Okay, so it should be like that. And so now that allows us to insert the blade. So we're just going to put this blade directly in here. See if you can see that. There we go. That's better angle. Okay. And now we're going to push this down to lock it into place. Okay. Now just be really careful and just take a look at it, make sure that it's in there properly. Okay, so that is an acceptable way there. So we're going to go ahead and put this in. Okay. We're going to go ahead and disconnect the battery again. Lock it, make sure there's nothing in it. Okay, so Here it is again, we just lift up on this. Slide this out, and for example, we're going to invert it and just show you, put it back in there like so, and it's locked back in. So now you can cut in upward direction if needed. So you just always want to make sure that that's locked. Okay. Okay, that's as easy as it is. Okay, now this is called the shoe here, and so we're going to go over some of the basic cutting instructions as well. Okay, so there are a few requirements when you're cutting. So if we were going to cut this model car in half, you would want the longer blade, of course. And so here's what they would like. They want to make sure that your blade is at least 3.5 inches long, which a lot of these will come that way. There are some shorter blades, and we'll measure them up to show you as well. And they also want to make sure that the shoe is flat against this. When cutting, this blade should extend farther than what you're cutting. Again, no battery. Okay. I'm just showing you this for demonstration purposes only. But the way that you would want to do this is square up the shoe here so that it's flush. Okay, and now see how the blade extends over what we're cutting? That's what they would like. Okay, so you could cut through this one. That's even a little bit close, but you want to do that because if it's short like this, it can bind up and snap the blade and all kinds of things. So you want that guide, which is the shoe here, to be flush, and you want this to overhang over on that side. Okay, so now I went and installed the smaller blade just to show you. Again, no battery installed. We're good to go here. It's in lock. Okay, now here's the shoe, and on one model, the 380, it's adjustable. On the 381, this one, it's not adjustable. So some of them slide in and out. But they want this blade to be more than 3.5 inches. So as you see here, this blade comes in pretty much right at 4 inches with the shoe. Okay, so you don't want to be any smaller than this. You don't want to find some other blade lying around and try to install it if it's smaller. Okay, so for example as well, with the shoe in place here, you would see if we were trying to cut this, see how short this blade would come up? So you would not want to use this blade on cutting through this box, for an example, because it's too short and it can snag and catch and break the blade and all kinds of things. So again, you want that blade to be longer than what you're cutting. I'll show you the illustration on that. So as you can see in this illustration, this is showing you the area that's circled is showing your cutting area. And so on the top left, you can see that that cutting area needs to have the blade on the left extended farther past it. So on the right top, it shows you that the smaller blade, if that's your cutting area, that would not work. So if you look down towards the bottom, it shows you bottom left, there's a nice block of wood that they're cutting, and it has the blade clearly extend over it. And the bottom right is showing that again, you do not want the blade to be smaller than what you're cutting. And note also that the shoe is pushed all the way up against the block of wood that they are cutting. And here's the reference here that we were talking about with the 380, how it can be normal, inverted, or horizontal. The 381 is designed to go vertical or horizontal. Okay, now of course there is a burn hazard as you're working with these blades and they're cutting. They can become very hot, which is common sense, but you might not think about it as you're working and you're concentrated on other things. So don't burn yourself on the blades. The illustration of the 380 only, as it has the adjustable shoe that you can push in and out. Okay, and this caution was important enough that I was just going to read it for you. It says, before cutting any type of material, be sure it is firmly anchored or clamped to prevent slipping. place blade lightly against the work to be cut, switch on saw motor, and allow it to obtain maximum speed before applying pressure, when possible. The saw shoe must be held firmly against the metal being cut. This will prevent the saw from jumping or vibrating and minimize blade breakage. Any cuts which put pressure on the blade, such as angle or scroll cuts, increase potential for vibration, kickback, and blade breakage. Okay, of course it's going to walk you through some other things too, cutting overhead objects, make sure they don't fall on you, and electrical and hidden gas pipes, those kind of things, so you just want to be careful. Okay, it goes over flush tube cutting. So the compact design of the saw motor housing and spindle housing permits extremely close cutting to floors, corners, and other difficult areas. So you can see how it allows you to get really close. Okay, next we're going to go over pocket plunge cutting with wood only. So I'm going to show you the illustration that it's talking about as I read it. The initial step in pocket cutting is to measure the surface area to be cut and mark clearly with a pencil, chalk, or scriber. Use the appropriate blade for the application. The blade should be longer than 3.5 inches, as we talked about, and should extend past the shoe and the thickness of the workpiece. During the cut, insert the blade in blade clamp. Next, tip the saw backward until the edge of the shoe is resting on the work surface and the blade clears the work surface. So see how the shoe is now touching what he's... Now switch the motor on and allow saw to come up to speed. Grip saw firmly with both hands and begin a slow, deliberate upward swing with the handle of the saw, keeping the bottom of the shoe firmly in contact with the workpiece. Blade will begin to feed into material. Always be sure blade is completely through material before continuing with a pocket cut. Note, in areas where blade visibly is limited, use the edge of the saw shoe as a guide. Lines for any given cut should be extended beyond edge cut to be made. Okay, now we're going to talk about metals, and when you're doing metals you of course want it to be clamped. As you can see here, they have this in a vise. It's good to clamp it on both ends if possible. And so I'll just read you this section here. It says your saw has different metal cutting capacities depending on type of blade used and the metal to be cut. Use a finer blade for ferrous metals and a coarse blade for non-ferrous metals. In thin gauge sheet metals, it is best to clamp wood to both sides of the sheet. This will ensure a clean cut without excess vibration or tearing of metal. Always remember not to force cutting blade, as this reduces blade life and causes costly blade breakage. Note, it is generally recommended that when cutting metals you should spread a thin film of oil or other lubricant along the line ahead of the saw cut for easier operation and longer blade life. Okay, and as we discussed previously, whenever you're changing the blade around or adjusting anything, disconnect the battery pack so it doesn't snap on you and turn on unexpectedly. Okay, and so here's a few more warnings. Blow dirt and dust out of all air vents with clean, dry air at least once a week. To minimize the risk of eye injury, always wear your approved eye protection. Never use solvents or other harsh chemicals for cleaning the non-metallic parts of the tool. These chemicals may weaken the plastic materials used in these parts. Use a cloth dampened only with water and mild soap. Never let any liquid get inside the tool. Never immerse any part of the tool in liquid. It also tells you to please not use the tool in wet conditions as well. Recommended accessories for use with your tool are available at extra cost from your local dealer. So head on down to your parts store or contact Dewalt. As for repairs, the charger and battery pack are not serviceable, so don't try to do anything to them. Okay. And it wants you to register online, and that's important because then if there's a safety recall, they know how to reach out to you. It comes with a 3-year limited warranty. So anyway, that's the reciprocating saw in a nutshell. And so hopefully you enjoyed this video, and you're going to make sure when you're cutting that it's going to be what you're cutting, that the blade will overhang it, that you're using at least a blade that's 3.5 inches long from the shoe forward, that you always have it locked, and battery out of it when you're carrying it around, because something, your tool bag could bump that, and the next thing you know you're rocketing around and chewing through things. So anyway, let me know in the comments if you have any questions. And again, this was the DCS381 variable speed reciprocating saw. Thanks for watching.